Victory, champion of right, swoops out of the shadows, Darkwing of the night. Somewhere some villain schemes, but his number's up 3, 2, 1. Darkwing Duck! When there's trouble, you call DW. Darkwing Duck! Let's get dangerous. Hey guys, welcome back to the Bucket Think Tank for another round of comic chat. And we've got some fun books today. Some alright books today. They're books. So our first one is Catwoman's One Bad Day by G. Willow Wilson. So we have not seen much from G. Willow Wilson. At least I haven't. I know, if I'm not mistaken, she wrote the first run for Miss Marvel with Kamala Khan as Miss Marvel. She came over to DC to do Wonder Woman, and that didn't last either. But whatever. For the most part, I read like half of her Wonder Woman. I need to finish reading it. It was all right. It wasn't worthwhile. It sort of spoke to the problem that Wonder Woman has as a book, is that she never seems to get a writer for more than maybe 15, 20 issues, when I think she needs the same sort of attention that Batman and Superman get, but whatever. So this story here is kind of, it's all right. So Selena wants to steal a brooch. All right, that's the whole thing. So, and there's this whole discussion about what is a right, what is the cost of something, what is the value of it, and you sort of don't quite get it, but you sort of understand where the story is going for, with the idea that Selena is a big part. She grew up as, as a poor, underprivileged girl, hence her deciding to steal and whatnot. It's always been about survival, doing what she can to survive, and so maybe the whole housing is a human right signs is sort of weird about, it costs too much to live in Gotham. Does it really cost too much to live in Gotham? I mean, the property value should be pretty low, all right? Maybe depending on where you live, it's higher, but, there's probably some apartments there that's only like maybe like $100 a month. Granted, it's because, Killer Croc runs through there every other month. But, hey, I'll do it. Look, just make sure it doesn't eat you. So anyway. What Selena wants to steal is this brooch. And this is a brooch that her mother said was of great value. It's from World War II, I believe, passed down from her mother and her mother. And when she went to sell it, they said it was fake. And she's like, well, no, it's not fake. He says, no, ma'am, it's fake. Most I can give you is $200 for this, which didn't cover rent. And apparently that's lived, oddly enough, rent-free in Selena's head. So, yeah, she's going in. This brooch is now at auction. So she's going to steal it back. There's an interesting conversation. It's not even an interesting conversation, sort of like a very milquetoast conversation where one guy's like, yeah, they may make more, but, they went to business school, they work harder. I'm like, that is true, but I don't think this story is trying to imply that there is any merit to his argument. Which is kind of all right, because the story doesn't really seem to want to have that conversation at all. So, yeah, it's just sort of there to be there. Selena is able to knock out the guards, go through, and just looks divine. And as she goes in getting ready to steal, she meets a lovely old lady who really, really looks like she's the villain, or something close to a villain. But anyway. Selena goes in, she's able to steal the brooch, and she takes it to, first she calls her sister Maggie. All right, because this is a big deal. This is the brooch that her mother had to sell, and here she is, sort of basking in her victory here. And she calls Maggie at work, and as someone who works retail, I do hate this. I do hate when people call me when I'm at work. All right, no matter how much I love it, because I get it. There could be something important. Maybe you're not in the right headspace, but it's also ultimately what you're calling me for. And to call to tell me that, hey, that thing that we haven't thought about in years, that I thought about, that you didn't think about, yeah, I have the brooch, yeah, and it's apparently worth a lot of money. And Maggie's like, so what does that mean? Because I think from Maggie's perspective, it's like, hey, we got this brooch. Maggie's still working retail. She's still working at a cash register. So unless we're going to sell and put some actual cash in here, whatever monetary value that thing has, it means nothing to Maggie. So, yeah, and of course the customer is, unhappy that, someone's, that the cashier is on her phone. I'm like, well, if you're not going to have anything interesting to say and the work's still getting done, chill. chill. Like, I get it. It's unprofessional, especially if they're having an actual conversation, like, actual phone conversation. It doesn't feel like they're, taking what you do serious, what you're trying to do seriously. Sure. But, otherwise, chill, relax. Or there are worse things going on. But please, let them know. Let their managers know. Anyway. So Selena goes to try to pawn this thing, and the dude says, this is fake. It's not centered properly. And Selena's like, I'm sorry, what? No, this is not fake. The auction house announced it. There were giant posters. They had experts coming. They're like, no, this is fake. It's not like this particular brand of brooch is centered in a certain way. This one it's maybe about 20 years old. And Selena's like, oh, look, friend, I hate to tell you this. My mother got it from her mother, so it's not 20 years old. You might want to double check your sources. And he's like, people lie about where something comes from all the time. And she's like, my mother wouldn't lie about anything. I'm like, sort of the deification of her mother. But anyway, Selena realized, like, wait, that crazy old lady, she mentioned something about it being centered. She knew it was fake, so she goes down there, finds the old lady, getting ready to lay the business to her. But Batman shows up, and I'm not sure where the relationship stands at this point. I just don't. But Batman says he's been tracking this woman for a while because he's been getting ready to build a case against her. But if Selena goes down there and does what he thinks she's going to do, it's going to ruin the case. And they won't be able to bring all those other cases forward. So, okay. But Batman's like, it's your choice. Do what you feel you need to do. But I'm just asking that you hold off on this one more night. Selena, being Selena, who has rarely ever thought of anyone before herself, with the exception like Maggie, just like, no, I'm going to do it. I love you, though. And she goes, kisses, and it goes off. And this is where it gets hilarious. So this woman, like, Selena goes in for the punch. And she's like, yeah, I got this. I don't usually go for violence as the first response. And then when the old lady catches fish, she's like, you know what? I shouldn't have gone for violence this time either. And, yeah. So not only is it revealed that this lady knew that it was fake, she makes fake jewelry. She made fake jewelry. She remembers selling that that brooch to Selena's mother. So yeah, it turns out, yeah, it was fake. It was always fake. And I think it's weird thing is I don't quite get where Selena's trying to mention here. Like, is it worth less because it's fake? But if the idea that it was a family heirloom passed, in her mind passed from, mother to daughter, then that significance doesn't have monetary value. Like, it's not worth actual money. The idea is that it belonged to members of your family, and it got them through, say, those hard times. And that was a big blow that Selena's mother had to sell that to provide for her daughters. But now she finds out, like, oh, it's always fake. I can't sell it, so there's no real value to it. But at the end of it, Selena does decide to call Maggie and says, hey, do you want to talk? Like, she's gone through some stuff, this adventure. And that's how this story ends. This is not the worst One Bad Day story. I think that still goes to Two-Face, because I just don't get the Two-Face story. And Riddler was a bit much, but it's Tom King. I don't think he does well with one issue, but I think he does well with 12 issues. But anyway, this one here, I don't quite get what the story is. It could be a case about value, what we choose to value as humans, which is mentioned in this book. But Selena's own personal journey, I don't think get it. Is her one bad day seeing her mother sell that and get what she believes cheated? But then that's revealed to be based on a lie. She wasn't cheated. She got exactly what it was worth. So I don't get that either. Making it to be a lie, I think was making it to not be a lie. I think was a mistake for that story. For the story, Selena doesn't really. It's so dialogue heavy, but there's not much being told. I think it has the same problem as Two-Face. That we have a good idea here, but we don't really explore it well enough. It's not bad. It's just not that great. Because when you hear One Bad Day, you really do think of stories like Penguin, Mr. Freeze, even Bane. Those stories really did. And even Riddler, because we got to explore Riddler's childhood, what made Riddler the way he was. This doesn't do that. It doesn't do anything. So, yeah. Next is The Terror That Flaps in the Night. That's right, kids. Darkwing Duck by, I don't know, is the first name Dabert. from Dynamite. So Dynamite's not only doing Gargoyles, they're doing Darkwing Duck. And honestly, with what had happened with DuckTales, I was a bit concerned as to where this was going to go, because it's so easy for this to go wrong. But this story here was pretty straightforward. There is a statue being revealed in Darkwing's honor, and he expects, like, the mayor, who is Alson from DuckTales, to tell, like, a really great story, but she gets Hubert in, and Hubert tells a very boring story, and ultimately this is all revealed to be a ploy by the dastardly, the dangerous, electrifying Megavolt, who is using cell phones and electricity to mind control the people of St. Canard. And honestly, the real downside of this story is it's just so straightforward, which isn't always a bad thing, especially when you're trying to just dip your toe into, the story. Your first issue doesn't have to be heavily bogged down, especially for a character that hasn't really been seen in comics for a good while. And I think it's really great because you do get the voices of these characters well enough. Like, everyone sounds like how they should. Darkwing sounds like Darkwing. Goslin sounds amazingly like Goslin. So there's that. If you wanted, like, a much bigger epic story, I don't think this is it for you, but it does remind you what Darkwing Duck is supposed to look like. I think what it really did tell you by default was that this is not the D17 Darkwing Duck, the Darkwing Duck that came out of that. This is definitely, Drake Mallard. There was no Jim Sterling. This was not based off of a TV show, which wasn't a bad idea. But ultimately, Darkwing Duck is able to save the day, and that's kind of it. Again, it doesn't reinvent the wheel. There's not a lot of interesting dialogue here, which is fine. This is an all-ages Darkwing Duck comic. What did you want? That doesn't mean that we couldn't explore the character on a deeper level. But again, it does the job. On a personal, I wish this had been what D17, the DuckTales comic, was, because I read one issue of that and I was like, I have no idea what's going on. Look, at the very least, I didn't enjoy it because it didn't quite get what it wanted to do in terms of the story. And DuckTales comics can be hit or miss, or a hit or miss. I think at some point I'll have to have that discussion itself, but I don't think I have the issues. Oh, okay. Anyway. So that was it. I expect there'll be some more fun stuff here. If you liked the original Darkwing Duck cartoon, I think you'll get a lot of that in this. I look forward to see what issue 2 brings in. Next is Star Wars Yoda. Alright, so this is the conclusion of the story on the planet Turek and the Raiders. And so, this story is mostly more of... It takes place after the events of last issue, when Bree attacked those raiders, killed the raider captain, and he is, years later, he's, aged up, got a nice beard, mustache combo, and tells his niece and nephew that, hey, it's not fun to really glorify the idea of killing people. And what he's really talking about is after those events, Yoda left the planet. Like, this is not what I tried to do. This is not what we were trying to do. You went down a different path. He just sort of left. Right? He didn't quite get what he was supposed to get when he went down there. Yoda was trying to investigate the cause, why the Raiders were doing what they were doing, and apparently he did see, and he was a bit upset that Bree didn't see. So he left, and he hasn't been back. But lo and behold, he is back, and he showed like, hey, I got the gist of your instrument. And Bree's like, so why are you back? Like, what has changed? And the alarm goes off. The Raiders are back, and Bree goes out there, but Bree's niece and nephew are like, no, we're going to take the fight to them. And they go off, and he kidnaps one of the children. And I'm like, wait, no, this is not good. And later the day, the mother, I guess that's the woman of these people, finds out that they've taken my daughter, and a war basically goes to happen. And when they go out to meet the Raiders, Yoda comes out and says, no, let's wait and see what happens. Yoda says, look, I will stand by you guys, because that's what I said I'd do, but first let's wait and see what happens. Bree comes in, and he sort of makes peace, like, hey, we didn't intend to take your daughter, this was a mistake, and he's going to give her back. And Yoda reveals the biggest problem is that there's no actual food in the water. Like, for some reason, there aren't any fish there, and like no aquatic life they can eat. So the Raiders are basically struggling every day to find food, and Bree's people have an abundance of food. So, like, let's bring down the walls, let's enter this era of peace, and that's actually what Yoda came out to do. And when Yoda reports back to Coruscant exactly what's been going on, the Jedi who has been really kind of working my nerves, like, Yoda's going to some backwater planet. Old man's losing his mind. It's very un-Jedi-like. It turns out Yoda was doing the most Jedi thing ever. He went in, looked at both sides, and revealed the solution. And even the Jedi was like, we'll send a Jedi team over to investigate what's been going on with the water there. And that's how the comic mostly ends. With Yoda talking about, patience and trust is the key to most things. Because he knew that Bree would see what was going on and make the right decision at the end of it all. He trusted him. And that's how that comic ends. So ultimately, this 3-issue story was all right. It's going to be 6 issues, so the next one apparently is going to involve Dooku. And Yoda and Dooku's relationship has always been an interesting one, so it'll be nice to see where that one comes. This story, for the most part, I think was good. I think it maybe could have used one more issue. Maybe this should have been all 6 issues to really delve into it. But who knows? Who knows? I think maybe that would have hurt the mystery of the story. And next we have, we didn't know this was coming. Actually, I didn't know it was coming, but I wasn't ready. Last Ronin. So The Lost Years of The Last Ronin. So, this story here, this story with The Last Ronin is, it's kind of hilarious. Well, at the same time, not. So, Last Ronin is about Michelangelo's time before the Last Ronin story actually starts. And at the same time, we see Casey Jones teaching a new generation of turtles, which I don't think Michelangelo, Splinter, or any of the other turtles would have wanted. Because, well, yeah, it's just kind of a messed up thing to do. So this new generation of turtles, yeah, it just doesn't quite sit right with me. But, it makes sense in its own way. Like, why wouldn't you have, Mutant Ninja Turtles? And it's not working out because, they're kids. Case is able to sort of, get them all. She's able to be a mom. And April points out, like, hey, there's no real rule book for this. It's a very hard thing to do. I didn't think I'd be a good mom, but luckily I was able to, raise you as best I could. And at the same time, we've got a story with Michelangelo and his time, when he arrived in Hokkaido. And he really did come up north to die. But his mutation just wouldn't let him pass. And it really sort of told you exactly how broken and battered he was emotionally. The only survivor, like Raphael's died, Leonardo died, Donnie and Splinter died, his family was gone. And so, he just sort of actually ended up just staying in that house the whole winter. And then he came out in the spring and, he was able to, read his master's journal, read Splinter's journal. And in a lot of ways, he had some form of peace. But as it tends to be, it doesn't last. And these dudes just attack him. And he's reminded of one time when he and his brothers and Splinter were fighting the Foot Clan. And it sort of gives him the resolve to sort of keep fighting, as his brother tells him, to keep fighting, as Splinter tells him, we're going to keep going. Now, this is not your destiny. I will not leave you to die a coward's death. And it helps Mikey sort of, fight off. Like, this is really just sort of a fire being relit in Michelangelo. And I think it's something that he's always sort of had trouble doing. He's always had trouble being the serious one, taking it seriously, realizing that this is a fight for your life here. So he's always sort of felt out of place. And his brothers were able to get that a lot quicker. And I think in a lot of ways, he also talks about, how his other brothers would have handled it, what they would have said. He pointed out Raph, like, no, you're not going to let these punks take you down. Leo would point out, you're so out of practice. Donnie would say, you're not thinking this through. But, in that moment, Mikey is so full of rage and sadness and grief that these regular thugs don't stand a chance. Also, rare moment to look at their foot. But anyway, Mikey goes down to the village and finds out it's under attack by these same group of thugs. And they even say, like, hey, that monster attacked you? Oh, that's not what happened. That's not what happened. So Mikey goes in, lays down the business, and he hears from one of the, not even a survivor, one of the semi-survivors, as he lays dying, he points out, hey, they're going to come back, and they're going to do more damage. And Mikey sort of realized that, he has to keep going. He has to keep doing this. And even more so because he remembers again when Splinter says, we're not going to leave you alone. We'll always be here. And the comic ends with Mikey really seeing the ghost of his brothers. And I do like that, sort of egging him on, like, you got to get moving. So I think that was interesting. So the Lost Years of the Last Ronin was an interesting take on this. Like, I don't hate it, but at the same time, I'm not 100% loving it. I think this is just too much of an introductory story to really keep my attention, especially because I know what's going on. But I do like the new generation of turtles, Casey's training. Um, Michelangelo's sort of healing moment. Well, not even sort of a healing moment, sort of him just sort of being able to rest and to some degree to lick his wounds. And then sort of have that moment in spring where he's able to like to create something, to meditate, to really attempt to quiet his mind, and then that being ruined by the outside forces, which you could just say that that group was just the Foot Clan. It was just that senseless violence that was Hamato versus Oroku, you know, or not, either way. But yeah, overall, this was still good. I did like it. I'm waiting to see more before I really, give a full opinion on it. And finally, we have JSA, the Justice Society of America. And I'm not going to lie, this one kind of, sort of, but not really disappointed me. Not that it was bad, but it wasn't what I wanted. So anyway. So, Huntress, Helena wakes up and she meets the JSA, the full JSA. We got Hawkman, Atom Smasher, Dr. Fate, Alan Scott, Jay Garrick, Night Owl. Is that Night Owl? It's Night Owl. The Spectre. Yeah, the Spectre was at one point part of the JSA. Hourman, the first Hourman, and is it Johnny Thunder? Johnny Thunder. They meet her, and Helena notes that Jay Garrick looks a lot like her friend Judy Garrick. Jay Garrick's daughter looks a lot like her. Remember, we saw Judy Garrick in Stargirl and the Lost Children, so we know she's missing. The question is she currently missing now? At some point, she was taken out of time and is hooked to a treadmill, as is all speedsters at some point. But anyway, Helena sort of kicks things up a notch. She's like, hey, I was sent from the future by my mother to warn you all and Dr. Fate of what's going on. Dr. Fate tries to, you're like, okay, let's see what's going on. He is all of a sudden hurled back to another time where he has a sidekick, Salem, who we also saw in Stargirl and Lost Children. So brilliant timing. I miss when books would do this, when they would sort of properly time the events, their issues coming out to tell a better story. He and her are in Slaughter Swamp looking for this era's Mr. Miracle, and he was looking for Solomon Grundy to find the Justice Society Dark, and as soon as he meets him, his helmet sends him back again, and back to the present. He's like, something crazy is going on. And then he gets a vision of Selena Kyle, Catwoman, 26 years from their time, and the guy is like Decaton with his power of time travel, and apparently whatever Selena did with the snow globe has sent Selena too far out of Decaton's reach. In other words, wherever she is, she's hidden in time. So he can't find her, he can't trace her. I'm like, okay, so there's a real plan here. And Selena's trying to stop Decaton now. So we'll see where that's coming forward. But then Helena is sent further in time, and first she went 26 years into the past. All right. To the time of the JSA, when the JSA was like everyone was there. Then she went to through 13 years ago, then 8 years ago, then 1 year ago, when I guess that's when Khalid finds Fate's helmet, and now she's in the present day where she meets the current Justice League Dark, led by Bubble the Chimp. So yeah, everything is kind of crazy, but I love it. This is time travel shenanigans 101. Helena has been sent to meet to the past. We're like, okay, Dr. Fate, I can talk to you, right? Then Dr. Fate comes in like, he's sent somewhere else. Like, okay, what? As soon as he gets his bearings, he's sent back to where he was before. And he's like, this is kind of wild. And then as soon as he gets his bearings again, he gets a vision like, oh crap, your mother, this is really what happened. Then as soon as he gets his bearings from that, Helena's sent to the present. I'm like, wait, all right, this is some Doc Brown madness, except unlike Doc Brown madness, we haven't been sent to the same spot 3 to 6 different times. But overall, though, really fun. Degaton, Degaton. I don't know how to say that. I'm trying to figure out what he's trying to do here. What he's trying to unstable? We also know the Time Masters are involved, as we saw in Stargirl: The Lost Children. So, where Helena's role with Dr. Fate comes in with Khalid is going to be interesting. Or will she be sent back again? So, hard to say. I really am hoping we actually get to see more of exploring the concept of legacy, what it means to be in the JSA that Jeff Johns talked about in the interview. Because so far, I'm not seeing it. Overall, though, this was still fun. I'm just waiting for the real meat of the story. We got the meat in Stargirl and Lost Children. That one was crazy. But, yeah. So anyway, with that in mind, if you are new to the Bucket Think Tank, feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe. What was your favorite comic this week? What did you like him? Did you hate him? Leave your thoughts in the comment section. I'll catch you all later. This is Bucket Think Tank signing off. Thanks for watching. As always, may your fandom serve you well.